Hello, everyone. I'm Giselle Leanne, founder of gigworks.com, a platform that promotes artists and gets them gigs. And today we have a very special guest. We are speaking to a speech coach with Fearless Communicators, Ben Pelteson. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So tell us, Ben, why do you think it's so important to have experience in public speaking? And how should one train for speaking in front of people or on Zoom?
Yeah, I think that's such a great question. We are so scared, right, to get up in front of other human beings and talk. And this is true of most of us, right? We are designed biologically to react to, if you're in a room or a Zoom room full of like 200 eyeballs looking at you, our bodies go into this kind of fight or flight or freeze mode. And so for anybody, anytime you're going to be up in front of people in kind of a stressful situation like that, we need some way to just be able to get in the room and actually share whatever it is that you have got to share with the world. So the public speaking training that we do is really about getting out of your own way and making sure that the message that you have to share with the world, whatever that is, whether that's about your work, whether that's something personal, really can get across and land on the people that you're speaking to the most. And that's something everybody at some point is going to have to do. And the fact is, most people only prepare what they're going to say. They don't actually get ready to do the act of speaking. And that's where we come in.
That's such a great point, because I find myself sometimes when I'm speaking, my mind all of a sudden can just go blank, and I don't know what to say next or how to answer. That's probably the worst fear I have, because I feel like, oh, I'm failing because I don't have anything else to say.
And it goes way back for people, right? So that because so many of us were asked to get up in front of a class and do something, right? Public speaking became this like pass or fail thing, where if I don't say the right thing in the right moment, like I'm going to get an F, right? I'm going to fail. I'm going to be in some sense shamed for not saying the right words in the right moment. And actually, like, when you think about it, it's kind of silly, right? Like, we're just trying to get a message across, and it's very human to be like, I don't know what to say next. So how you deal with that in the moment is also something that we deal with in our work.
I think it takes a certain type of confidence to literally say, I actually don't know what to say, or I don't know. I think that sometimes it plays into how comfortable a person feels with oneself.
Yeah, and that shows up for people in their body, right? We talk about body language, but we don't actually, body language is responsive to our thoughts, right? So aligning your physical being with the stuff that's going on in your head, right? When you talk about confidence, there are ways to get that kind of confidence in front of a group of people physically, right? There are exercises and things that you can do so that when you go out there, you're feeling awesome before you even step on the stage or in front of the camera. And that is like half the battle. Because if you're in your body and you're feeling awesome and confident, right, whatever you have to say is going to have an easier time getting out of you.
Yeah. Very true. And a lot of influencers and a lot of professionals always say, just be yourself, right? When you're being yourself, that is your most natural state. But some people in a professional setting, they kind of hold back that being yourself. How can one find a balance between the two, especially, when you're on a stage speaking to so many people?
Right. So it's that's such an interesting question. Be yourself. What does that actually mean? Like, which self? Because I'm somebody different, right? When I'm talking to my mom than I am when I'm talking to my best friend or when I'm talking to my partner. Like, these are all different selves. right? So actually bringing some intention and some awareness to how you choose to show up, which part of yourself you want to bring to the act of speaking is part of the deal. Like you can't just bring everything, right? Giving some intention to yeah, to what you want to bring on, to who the parts of you that you want to bring on that stage is part of kind of some mindset work that we do with speakers that we work with as well.
That is very insightful, very insightful. I just learned something today, so thank you for that. So there's a thing called story doula. What is that all about? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I work with this company called Fearless Communicators, and basically what we do, we work with speakers all around the world on 3 different continents with what to say and how to say it. And our founder likes to kind of come up with words. His name is Eduardo Placer. He's an old friend of mine from my work in the theater. And when he started the company, he started working with women, with groups of women. That was the first thing that we started doing because we wanted to elevate the voices of women in the world. And we would sit there and kind of help people figure out, like, what is your story really? Like just sitting really patiently and listening. And it started to feel like people were kind of giving birth, right? Like some of these things were like, oh, the story that was an easy birth, right? Like, oh, you knew what you wanted to say. We helped you kind of structure it. And then some births are really like, you got to sit there with somebody and really hold space for them and really be there to sit with them and be present with them as whatever that story that they have to tell comes out. So Eduardo started calling us story doulas, right? So we help people give birth to the story that they want to share. And so that's where that term comes from. And I should say now we do workshops that are gender inclusive. We also work with folks one-on-one. And we realized really early on that 2 men running a workshop of women was not the right vibe. And so we since pivoted and corrected that in ways to make sure that the women in those particular workshops and female identifying folks in those particular workshops feel safe and supported in that work the whole way through.
So the doula has to do with the birthing or the birthing process. And you do have a special program for women. Am I correct?
Yeah. So yeah, like I just said, so Fearless, we call it a Fearless Force, public speaking for visionary women leaders. And we have done it now with over 120 women and female identifying folks on 3 continents. We've done it in Australia. We've done it in San Francisco, New York, Tel Aviv, London. And it's a really beautiful program where up to 6 people work with one of us as a story doula. And they create a 12 to 15 minute TED-length talk about their big idea for the world in less than a week. So it's kind of like you're being shot out of a cannon with a really close-knit group of like amazing women. And what you come up with is something that's often really personal, really touching, really funny, really, really you. And we do it without notes. We do it without memorizing copy. We help you find a structure that supports the story that you really want to share. And then that is delivered at a showcase, and then you get a video of yourself sharing that in your final showing.
It sounds very intensive, but also probably liberating as well.
Yeah.
Sounds
It's
interesting.
A fear buster, we've had people really have these breakthrough moments around, that thing I was talking about earlier with those hundreds of eyes at you, right? Coming in saying, oh my God, I hate that, and coming out exhilarated, feeling like they've conquered something. And folks have gone on to launch public speaking careers, wrote books, have come out and started new businesses that they didn't even expect, because what they ended up saying out loud in the workshops was something that that's sort of sifted down to them that we sort of help them find. And by speaking your ideas out loud, you have a clearer idea of what they are. And so that can kind of lead to new and unexpected developments for folks, which is really beautiful.
When I do my idea generation, I do visualize it, and I have to put it on paper. Otherwise it kind of forgets. And so that's a very interesting concept, the mirroring of that. So I want to ask you a question, and it might get a little personal, because what is the most fearless thing you've done to date?
Oh, wow. The most fearless thing that I have done, God, what is the most fearless? So the thing that's coming to mind, and I don't know if this is the thing that's coming to mind, Giselle. So like, it is what it is. So I was backpacking in Europe between my sophomore and junior year of college by myself. I was like, I'm just going on this adventure by myself. And so I ended up in Switzerland, and I'm like, I'm like a nice Jewish boy from Orlando, Florida. Like, I don't do like adventure, right? Like I have some parts of my life that are very adventurous, but like I don't do like outdoorsy things. But I was like, I'm gonna paraglide off of a Swiss Alp. Okay. Wow. Like, strapped to a thing, and just like there's some guide that's up there with you, and you like run off a mountain, and a parachute kind of catches the air, and you just kind of sift down over Switzerland, and it takes like 25 minutes. And so I called my mother the night before, and I just like left her a voicemail, because I was like, ugh, well, if anything happens while I jump off a mountain, like I should call mom. My mother, and I was like, so listen, I'm going to jump off a mountain tomorrow. If I die, I love you very much. Don't worry about me. I'll call you and let you know that I landed safely. And apparently she didn't sleep for like 2-3 days afterwards. But everything was fine. It was a lovely trip. It was actually like, ooh, really beautiful, and really kind of calming, oddly, for being just suspended by a parachute for a long time.
Well, jumping off of a mountain, I'm scared, first of all, just hearing about the story. And I do know that once you've started running off the mountain, you can't stop, because once you stop, you literally, it's just gonna fall, because the momentum is supposed to carry you through for the glide. So
yeah, exactly. So it really, I guess, I mean, it was, the running was scary, and then once we were up, it was very, it was like gentle, and like this Swiss man was like, oh, look at the mountains, and you could tell he had done it like 3,000 times, and so he was like just doing his kind of like routine.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah, Switzerland, it's a beautiful country. So we're going to pivot over to something that's currently happening in society. How do you apply concepts and teachings to parts of the population that are more in a fearful state? And I'm speaking about minorities, especially with movements such as Black Lives Matter, the LGBTQ groups, where their rights are being taken away. How do you apply your techniques to these type of groups?
Yeah, I think it's super important right now, right? Because, what we teach is authenticity in public speaking. How do you show up and tell your truth? But not everybody bears the same cost for telling their truth. So, when we are working with speakers who are, speaking about, their own marginalization, or their own really often deeply personal experiences with bias and prejudice, and how that has manifested in their life, we, I think we take great care to make sure that those folks feel incredibly safe in the work, and that we create a space where everyone feels incredibly welcome and incredibly valued for exactly who they are. About 46% of the speakers that we work with are from a historically marginalized community of some kind. And we're always looking to make sure when we have a group program, for example, so these group public speaking programs that I talk about, to make sure that we have groups that are not, for example, all white or all male, that we are really making sure to create communities and to create workshops that reflect the diversity of the city and the world that we are in.
Thank you. Thank you for that. How about, can you tell us a moment that you maybe had a breakthrough with a client where you could actually see real change, that where they actually went and they clicked?
Yeah, these are amazing moments. These are like, it's really amazing to when these things happen, because they happen in every workshop that we do. The one that's coming to mind was from our very first workshop. And there was a woman in our workshop who was telling a story. She was doing a 12 to 15 minute talk about grief. And she was telling the story of her son who had passed away. And he had died the night of the showcase where she was sharing this with us. It was the anniversary of his passing. So the week leading up to this was incredibly hard for her, because she was like re-experiencing a lot of that grief in the process of telling the story of her son. And there was a moment as she was speaking out the first kind of section of her talk, and her voice caught. She couldn't get her breath, and she couldn't get the story out. Like, it was just stuck in her because she didn't want to cry, right? And so I went back to something that had happened in my training as an actor back in a voice class. And I had her push against my hands and tell the story, and I made her kind of push me across the room. And what that does is it gets your breath lower in your body, gets your voice connected, and it made her push through and release the thing that she had to say, right? To not be afraid of tears or whatever in the moment of saying it. But once she got it out of her mouth, she was able to, when she shared the story a couple of days later at our showcase, she was able to kind of stand there with her breath under her, her voice full, and release this beautiful story of her child's passing. And there were tears, but she had a command of them, and she had no fear of it. She had no fear of saying the hard thing or telling the story that was vulnerable for her. And now that, and then as a result of that story, that speaker, Deb, who is now a story coach with us, so she has come on to facilitate for us. She started a new business doing grief coaching for other folks who were going through something similar. She wrote a book that came out of it. So all of these unexpected things that happened just happened as a result of releasing this story that she had kind of locked in her body, right? Because we hold on to things that are painful, but there's an opportunity and a gift that can come when we let go, right? And that's part of the work.
That you're very on the money on this, and especially during COVID period, I find that mental health is a serious issue that I don't think that society has recognized. There's still a stigma even amongst my friends where they say, oh, where are you going? I'm going to therapy. Well, therapy isn't actually bad. You're literally just telling your problems to someone who is a professional and doesn't happen to be a friend. So you're looking for someone to help you professionally. So this type of emotional release is really necessary, especially when we're now, you know, might be going to another lockdown where you're trapped in a closed setting for
Yeah.
long periods of time. And, you know, in the dead of winter, when, you know, it's cold outside and it's lonely, there's nothing to do. You really feel trapped. So
Yeah.
this type of emotional release must be, you know, really powerful. And congratulations to the lady that and her success.
Yeah, she's really one of my favorite folks to work with. So
Thank you
yeah.
for sharing that story.
Yeah.
So, what is one concept of your program that you would like everyone to know?
I think, you know, the thing that we forget, it's a little bit what I said earlier. So the thing we forget, we always plan out what we're going to say, right?
Right.
So we get in front of these rooms full of people who are there to hear us, and we're like, okay, if I can just remember what I had to say, then I did it right, right? There's no doing it right, right? Like, let's eliminate that nonsense for like the rest of time. There's no such thing. What we really believe in is talk like a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Talk like a person. So we we joke, can I curse? Is that going to ruin anything?
Well, not exactly. You can do it. It's okay.
Right. So we joke, our joke around around the company is that we want to have tote bags made that says, just be a effing person, right? Because that's what people forget to do. People get up and they think they have to perform something, or they think they have to like memorize what the way they said it in their bathroom when they were practicing to the mirror. And the truth is, you just have to go out there and be a person and engage with the human beings in the room at this moment,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's the work that we believe in and that we help people with, whether it's, you know, a politician working towards a debate, or whether that's an artist working on sharing about their work to the folks that they have to share to. So that's I think the core of what we believe. Just be a person.
I that is really wise words. But the thing is that you're able to do this because you actually have an advantage, because you have a background in theater. So
Mhm.
you interact with people and you're in front of audiences at all times. So how has that correlated with the work that you do?
You know, I never expected to be doing this work, right? Like this is not something that when I was young that I thought I was going to be doing. And I should say, like, I do this work in parallel with working as an actor in primarily the theater, sometimes in television as well. And that work has given me so much. And it turns out to be really applicable to folks who have to get up in front of audiences. The first thing they teach you in acting school is how to get your body and your voice to relax in a moment of stressful communication. What is that? That is public speaking, right? Then, you know, working on plays professionally for the last 18 and a half years, you learn how to structure stories. There is nobody, you know, an actor in a play can tell you exactly where the moment the play is losing an audience, right? Because you're physically embodying it. You really know what that is in your bones. So that training turns out to be really useful for helping people understand where they are in their own story, right? Because many, many times people will get up and do a speech and they will be like, I have this sense that they didn't follow me, but they don't know why, right? Knowing from my work in the theater, like what it is in your body to be out there, right? I do feel like it's been incredibly helpful to be able to apply to other folks across the world who need a little help trying to figure out where they are in their story as they're telling it out loud. And then, you know, the piece about connecting to an audience, which is all about listening, right? We think public speaking is about the words you say. It's not. It's
Mm-hmm.
about listening while you talk to the folks in the room.
Exactly. Very, very insightful. So, do you notice that there is a trend in the way people are communicating? Because given the global climate and how everyone is engaged in social media, newspapers are closing down left and right. People don't read the newspaper anymore. They get the news off digitally. People don't buy magazines as much as they used to. So that everything has shifted digitally. What do you think about that trend?
I think we've become iPhone people, right? We've become
I'm also guilty of that.
They're incredibly addictive devices. They're doing a lot of different things to our brains, right? It's shattered our attention spans. It's also, it does things to you physically, right? A lot of people talk about this with posture, right? We become smaller. We're now talking, you and I, you're in Berlin, I'm in New York, and we're talking through these screens now all the time. And what happens is we forget that we have a voice that reaches through the technology and actually can kind of embrace the people that we are speaking to, right? So we get a lot of people who talk off of their voice, because this is how people talk when they are shrinking, right? Physically shrinking. So I think in terms of a trend, right? Our technology has made us less embodied. But we are starving for being in rooms together. We are starving for human connection. We are starving for the experience that we have of speaking when we're committed to something, which is with a free, open voice, right? With a full presence, right? With real breath under you. So I think our work in some ways is about undoing this trend to making ourselves small and fractured and withdrawn and showing up, right? Getting from here to here.
You literally explained actually my mood, because for a lot of the summer, I actually don't prefer to do anything digitally. If there's anything to do, I want to see people in person. And whenever I'm with people, I put my phone away. I haven't seen my phone for the whole day. And when I'm with people, you appreciate the time that you spend with one another more. And I hope that people do, because during COVID, you never know what might happen the next day, but it's just that appreciation. And on another note, piggybacking on what you were saying, the communication, the Simon Sinek, I don't know if you heard any of his talks, but he talks about how the dopamine of the likes and the pings, and how it really, you're constantly thinking, oh my God, am I getting enough likes? Who texted me, kind of thing. You're just fidgety all the time.
Yeah, it's true. Like when you think about okay, here we are, like billions of human beings, little ants on this planet in the middle of space, and all we're worried about is like the next dopamine hit from this device. It's terrifying, right? And it does things to you that disconnect you, right? So, one amazing thing about art and artists and your community, right, and the world that I come from is that is the thing that makes us human, right? That is the thing that brings us into some kind of connection and community with each other, even if we're on Zoom, which we're, we acknowledge is like taken over our lives for the past couple of years now. That there is an opportunity through the art that you make and through the story that you tell to build a bridge with other human beings, to be people, right? That's really what it's all about.
Yes. I'm going to tell a story. It's my turn, because as a makeup artist, so I went to a MAC store one day, and I was helping a friend pick out her makeup. And I was literally showing and telling her, oh, you should use this one, do this one, do it this way. Funny enough, some of the customers actually came over to me and started asking me questions instead of the people who actually worked in the makeup store. And I go, I actually don't work here. But I had a sense of, because I enjoy putting on makeup on people, because it makes people happy, and because it makes them feel beautiful. So one way for me to help people feel beautiful is to explain to them, do it this way, this makes you look better, don't use these colors. And I find that that type of, I'm not even doing sales, right? I'm just explaining, and people kind of hear it, and they like it when you have that human touch and that tone to explain things to them, because people aren't stupid. They know what's real and what's fake. You know, they know when someone's doing a sales pitch. So
yeah, for sure. That's, yeah, I think that's really true. Like, you putting yourself out there genuinely, right, to help folks, you know, and that's your area of expertise. That's awesome that folks are finding their way to you in that way.
I hope we can help more people.
Yeah,
Well, this is the best I can do at the moment to help everyone.
yeah.
So being in the industry, and as far as you can see in the future of how we communicate, what do you recommend for regular business people to focus on going forward?
For regular business people, you know, I in terms of communicating, right? Our brains are wired to learn things and to make connections with people based on storytelling. So this is not new. I'm not going to give you like, here's the brand new version of the world. Like there's no like new, I'm not going to give you new magic. I'm going to give you like ancient magic, which is however you are communicating. If there's an opportunity to create narrative, do it. And do it because it releases chemicals, like you're talking about dopamine earlier with likes and clicks. You want dopamine, you want neurotransmitters to go boom in the brain of your listener. That is not the most articulate phrasing, but if you want to sort of light up the brain of the people that you're speaking to, telling them a story is the way to do it. So that's kind of my main basic advice for folks in business who need to communicate. Tell a story, and there are specific ways to do that that will be more engaging based on who you're talking to and what the situation is.
That's so true. I think I find that I actually remember stories better than I remember about a product, or you know what something does. So that is very true. Thank you for that. Well, that's all the time we have for today. But do catch us at our meeting that's upcoming on July 29th. We will be having a sit down, and Ben will be showing us some of his craft. It is on July 29th, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Central Time. And there will be a post with all the data and registration available. Limited seats only. So sign up as soon as possible. Well, at this time, Ben, thank you so much for teaching us, and we will be learning from you next Thursday.
Thank you so much for having me, Giselle. This was great fun.
Thank you so much.